Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer quick match gameplay. This time around I'm playing as Empire against Brettonia on the map MP Crossroads. So as you can see, right off the bat, this map is very empty, nowhere to hide. So my comp, pretty straightforward. Brought Boris Todbringer on a Griffin, with the intent that if my opponent brings a large goon squad, I'll simply dive straight into the melee and use them as a terror bot to dare upon people. Coming in with Crush the Weak, the Midland Rune Fang, Foe Seeker, Furious Onslaught, and of course Stand Your Ground. He's backed up by a Light Wizard on a horse so that he can get away from trouble if need be, with False Protection, Net of Mintok, and of course Arcane Conduit. Empire Captain on foot with Foe Seeker and Furious Onslaught there to stiffen up my front line. My front line is not likely to break. It's all unbreakable front line. A mix of Tattersouls, Sigmar Sons, and 2 Flagellants. Backed up by a single unit of Great Swords to push in and help whenever needed. I'm not expecting them to do too great against Empire Infantry or Brettonia Infantry because I was expecting my opponent to bring a bunch of Battle Pilgrims. For my range contingent, I've got a mix of the Silver Bullets and the Handgunners. Silver Bullets obviously invisible, forward deployed so that I could get some cheeky shots if opportunity presented itself, and then Unit of Royal Altar of Gryphons, Demigryphs Knights with halberds to deal with my opponent's cavalry or any large units that decide to land on the ground. Yeah, that's basically my build. A lot of regiments of renown there, as I'm sure you can see. For my opponent's front line, he does have 3 units of peasant mobs, and they're simply there to soften up to cushion the blow when my units just charge him. 2 Grail Relics to make sure his units don't break too soon, Damsel of Life with Arcane Conduit and Earthblood, just to help keep that front line alive. It does look like she's on foot. A mix of Spears and Swords making up the front line, just to help my opponent hold his ground, and then 4 units of Peasant Bowmen to dish out some ranged hurt against the squishy Empire units. But the main punch of my enemy's force is 2 units of Royal Hippogryph Knights and Lewin himself. Coming in without the Sword of Corone, actually, but does have his regen ability and Favored Son, giving his army frenzy when he's dropped below below 50% leadership. So I do believe it's 50% leadership. Beloved Son of Brettonia, which is when his leadership is below 50%, his army gets frenzy, and Ladies Champion, so HP regen. So without further ado, going to throw things into full speed and go straight at my opponent. Now, as you can see, I'm just pushing my front line forward. I'm trying to I'm figuring I have a good chance of winning this infantry engagement because my opponent doesn't have Battle Pilgrims and Flagellants, and even Sigmar Sons should do really well against Swordsmen and Spearmen. And of course, peasants are going to get smushed. I push the Royal Altar of Gryphons and Demigryphs forward, but now pull him back when my opponent starts posturing with his air force and pulling in from the side. My opponent does not yet know about the Silver Bullets, but they'll be revealed soon enough. In the meantime, I'm pushing Boris as far away from my opponent as I can. I don't want to get him caught by the air force, because if Boris dies, it's possible my army could just fall apart. What I do here, I accidentally pushed the Light Wizard too far forward. That was not my intent. It doesn't mean, though, that he takes some damage. In the meantime, I dive Boris on top of the Grail Relic, and as you can see, he's already taken off almost a third of its HP. Over here, the Captain's going straight at the Grail Relic as well, just to tear it apart. I don't know why my opponent's pushing quite that far up, but yeah, my Captain's almost on top of it. Over here, my handguns are finally opening up on King Lewin, because he was the guy in the front, and I hadn't turned off their auto fire. Now I do overcast the Net of Mintok. Unfortunately, my opponent was very clever here and made sure to space out his Royal Hippogryphs and Lewin out so that only one of them could get caught by the net. And now he dives Lewin straight into the Silver Bullets and immediately takes 4 of them out. I drop False Protection on to keep him alive in a second. There you go, you can see it going down. And in the meantime, my Demigryphs charge in to deal with Lewin. In the meantime, front line is going pretty well in my favor. Damsel's definitely ensuring that the middle is winning here, but in the meantime, Captain's crushing the Grail Relic, Tattersouls tearing through the Men-at-Arms' shields, the Great Swords and Sigmar Sons and the Flagellants just tearing through my opponent's swishy infantry, especially with Boris there and with all his abilities popped, and of course Stand Your Ground, making sure they're really hard to kill. The Peasant Bowmen are shooting at these handgunners, who have in the meantime taken off about half the HP on these Hippogryphs, and are staggering him. I'm pushing my Light Wizard, trying to keep him away. I was a little worried my opponent would dive bomb my handgunners with his Hippogryphs. And in the meantime, these Hippogryphs, I'm trying to keep them trapped on the ground, but they do manage to get clear and take off, and I don't manage to kill them. These Hippogryphs have dropped down to only 4 models, and so I charge them with the Demigryphs, and they're gonna get slaughtered before they can take it back to the air. Probably some of that arrow fire is actually hurting him, and now the Silver Bullets are back up and running, and they're just gonna be able to tear through these guys really quickly. The archer fire is coming in pretty hot and heavy, and definitely beating up on my handgunners quite a bit now. But because it's inaccurate, peasant bowmen aren't particularly accurate, then the handgunners didn't take too much damage, and now my Demigryphs are charging in to try to shut them down and shut down this Grail Relic once and for all. In the meantime, other Grail Relic's been killed off by Boris, and he's just terror routing my opponent's infantry that's too far away from the Grail Relic. Over here, Net of Mintok is going on in Lewin. As you can see, my opponent's army is just falling apart at this point, kind of shattering. These men-at-arms fell apart against the Tattersalls, who are now turning around to crush these men-at-arms. Peasant bowmen are routing. Empire captains kind of tearing through everything over here and beefing up these flagellants. My Gryphites and Demis were all coming over here to save the handgunners if needed, but it's not necessary. My opponent's army shatters at this point. So very quick game, very fun and pretty intense game. Going over the strats really quickly, I do think my opponent had a pretty interesting strat, and if I hadn't had Net of Mintok, it could have been really potent, because Hippogryphs do cause terror, so if you do, and Empire doesn't have anything to deny psychology, so had I had an army, a more conventional army that didn't bring flagellants, and perhaps even if I had the net, my opponent would have been able to dive bomb my rear and tear out my front line quite possibly. I do believe he would have been better off if he'd gone after Boris. Though that would have exposed him to the rear handgunner fire. Roaldorf, of course, doing great work. Boris, of course, doing great work, shutting down those Grail Relics. As you can see, the Grail Relics got very little done. They just got overwhelmed and destroyed, and that shut down my opponent's ability to keep his front line in the fight. He was definitely relying on the Grail Relics to keep these spearmen and men-at-arms in the fight through thick and thin against the flagellants and Sigmar's sons and Tattersalls, who will otherwise just tear through him normally. And of course, Great Swords did amazing work. They're almost impossible to shut down. As you can see, flagellants, a lot of kills. Demigryphs shutting down the Hippogryphs. So a very good trade-off there. Tam still got a surprising amount of kills, which is definitely surprising. As you can see, the men-at-arms aren't terrible against Empire infantry. They're pretty cost-efficient. Their main disadvantage is leadership, and as long as you can beef up that leadership with Grail Relics, so they're okay. Of course, peasants not a chance, but they were just there as cannon fodder. Peasant bows got a little bit of damage done, but not really enough. Because my handguns had done most of what they needed to do before they started taking serious model losses. I do think the flaws of protection was definitely helpful in keeping the silver bullets alive, and the fact that they stayed alive meant that they could tear through my opponent's air force once it tried to come back again. So definitely fun game, good game to my opponent. It was nice to see the Royal Brettonian Air Force on the field, whether or not successful. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like or subscribe down below. I appreciate you all for watching, and bye for now.